Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the ITSM crowd. Today our topic is the service desk, and particularly the service desk of the future. So what do service desk staff need to do in order to be ready to provide support in tomorrow's IT environment? So the first thing I'm going to do is ask our guests to introduce themselves. So working from left to right on my screen, Damien, if you want to say hello.
Yeah, I'm Damien Bowen. I run the Service Operations Centre for NTT Data in the UK. Do a lot of work with the ITSMF and the Service Desk Institute, and I'm very keen on this area. So I'm looking forward to the next half an hour.
Thank you very much. And Karen?
Yeah, just got here, some technology issues. Yeah, this is an interesting, I think that our industry is changing so rapidly. This is going to be an interesting conversation. So I'm a IT service management consultant, an organisational change practitioner, and as of yesterday, a certified agile service manager.
Ooh.
Go Kaz.
And thank you, Karen, for suggesting today's topic as well. It's a good topic. I'm looking forward to talking about it. Michelle, if you want to say hello.
Yeah, hi there, Michelle Major-Goldsmith. Was from the UK, working now in Australia at Kinetic IT as a capability manager. My passion is actually service desk. I had a long career as a service desk manager, which I absolutely loved. So I'm all around making sure we've got the right people, the right tools, and all those other fantastic things. So looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. And Simon?
Simon Dorst, also from Kinetic IT in Perth, WA. Coming out of uni, I had the choice, application development or service desk. I chose service desk and then escaped it into more service management and escaped the Netherlands well to go to sunny Australia. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what has changed over the years, what is going to change.
Lovely. And last but not least, Simone.
Hi everyone. Well, currently I'm a senior consultant and master trainer in various frameworks, be it ITIL, DevOps, KCS, things like that. But I did start off when I moved into the IT space from business service management. I actually started as a support center manager and had a very long career in that, and eventually started working with associations and things, doing more on the consulting side in helping rejig or create from scratch their service desks. And I just love it. To me, it's the absolute hub and the pivot point between the customers and the rest of IT. So this is a great topic.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'm Claire Agutter. I'm the lead tutor for ITSM Zone, and I'll be hosting today's session. If you've got any questions that you'd like us to discuss while we're live, then please use the hashtag ITSMcrowd on Twitter. We will be keeping an eye on it while we're talking, and if you have got questions, we'll be happy to answer them. So we're going to start today by asking, I guess, a fairly important question, which is the service desk still relevant? We're talking about living in a world of people looking for help on YouTube, people looking on Google, people supporting each other. Is the service desk still an important IT capability? And Karen, I'll ask you to start there, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Simone's little tag there, service desks is forever. Absolutely, long live the service desk. I just think it's dramatically changed the environment in which it's working. As you said, Claire, we've got more peer-to-peer support. I turn and ask my colleague, how did you do this? I Google for results. So gone are the days where the service desk was getting 100 calls saying my screen's locked, or how do I reboot my PC? Our users now, our customers, are far more savvy. They know how to do this stuff. So the stuff that the service desk stuff being technical word, the stuff that the service desk are getting is far more complex now. So it has to adapt to that environment, and and also determine how much peer-to-peer support are we going to rely on, how much Googling issues are we going to rely on, and at what point do we make sure we've got the right knowledge, the right channels for customers to get support, and what support are they going to be looking for?
Yeah,
I think you're right, Karen.
Go on, Simon.
Just one thing not so much surprised, but I noticed is that even though the role of the service desk has changed, it kind of started with people trying to do their own thing. And the first service desk were to get away from the grey IT and people trying to solve their own issues. So it's kind of come full circle. I think the role has changed from those early days, but we do have to ask how much can people do themselves, and where do you draw the line, and how do you then support them from there on in?
Yeah, I think that the key is that if you think of, I think of myself at home and I have an issue, and yes, I could ring Apple and go in a queue or make an appointment for the Genius desk or whatever, but the first things I'm going to do is either ask a friend or Google. And as the last resort, then I'm going to call the service desk. That's how people are operating, at home now. That's how they're looking for support.
I think you're right, Karen. This concept of super users has really changed. No, that's fine. I was just going to say, we used to have this concept of super users that would be within the community or within the work environment who knew more stuff, and I think those super users really have evolved into another form. As you say, you can find information online, you can ask your mates about it, and all those fantastic things. I really don't think it removes the importance of the service desk. I mean, for me, I'm still really passionate about what I do, and that's it's almost like facilitation, triage to everything that goes on within IT. I think their jurisdiction is evolving, exactly as you say, in terms of the capabilities of the service desk are more enhanced. It's less about just being, I guess, doing the first line support. It's more about the additional skills, because people can do so much more from themselves these days.
I think there's a real combination of the way the rest of the business or the customers actually support themselves. As you've noted, they are more savvy with what they need to do. They're starting to realise that, the applications and things they're using are actually part of their own tool set, so it's important that they learn how to use these tools for themselves. But also then combined with the way knowledge management is now viewed, and pushing more and more of the simple stuff, so it is customer facing. So as you talked about the jurisdictions there, Michelle, what is part of what they need to know and what they're going to support. And then combine that again with the organisational change management side of things, where it is part of their responsibilities to know how, as a customer, to know what you need to do for your work. And that means that the service desk can actually start to be not just this level one entry point. That they are smarter. They are going to be doing the more complex things now. And that changes the management of it as well, because no longer are call times just the 6 minutes or 7 minutes. If you're going to be doing more complex things, then a call could take half an hour. But at least we're now paying them for the smarts that they've always had, but now they're going to be showcasing that more.
Yeah, I think personally, some fantastic points have been raised. But one of the things I'd like to add into it is also, especially with regard to the future of the service desk, is two other elements, and that's the generation change that's coming into industry at the moment as well. For example, I booked a holiday last night. I could have done it on the internet. I wanted to phone someone to actually talk and communicate. My children will not phone anybody. It's all online, and it's all online. And also, I think with self-help is fantastic, and we do it, but I think the real reason we do it is to try and save time, because time's a challenge I think we've all got to admit we all face now. And I think if the service desk can start maybe doing things a little bit quicker, resolving issues a bit quicker, I think time is quite an element now, especially something that we're looking at. How can we get a user or get a customer back up and running as quickly as possible? And I think the challenges that you have with Google, and that is, yes, there's 20 articles on there, but as soon as you get to the fourth point down that says run regedit and do this, people go, so then they've wasted a bit of time on that. So it's how we manage that. And you're right in what you're saying about savvy and complex issues. But I think consider the new generation that are coming into the service desk and users of the service desk, and also time factors, pressure that we all have.
And I think that's a really good point, Dave, made. It's really about understanding your customer base, because you might have an aging population in your organization that wants that telephone, or you have another generation that is doing searches on Google. So we need to give careful consideration to what channels we provide our customer base or user base, and make sure that we're meeting the needs of the organisation as a whole, and not just say, oh, look, it's all new ground now, we need to do stuff that looks like Google. Some people want to speak to someone, some people still want desk side support. So it's understanding what your organisation's needs are.
Yeah, I think
a lot of it is about convenience, because Karen, you said like you can go in a queue for Apple, or you can make an appointment with the Genius Bar, and all of those have kind of negative connotation. People want that instant, and for some people it might still be the phone, but one of the change for the service desk is that it's not just the phone anymore. It's got to be the online chat or the moderated user forums, but it's all about convenience. It's all about instant assistance, and yes, I do think it's from a higher level than the old-fashioned have you try turning it off and on. Fortunately, because that wasn't the greatest.
It still works though.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does, and we default to it every day. One of the other things I like to me, I mean, Simone and I have chatted about this before. It's about knowledge and knowledge management, and I think knowledge on Google and that can be quite dangerous. I mean, I don't, if anyone's ever looked at, I've got this health problem on Google, you're going to go to A&E pretty quickly because the symptoms are ridiculous. And it's the same with IT. And I think that's why I like the concept of knowledge management in the service desk, because it's cleansed knowledge. So it's knowledge that really works, rather than knowledge on Google that 27 people have posted, and all it needed is one person to miss out a step. And you're probably inheriting more issues and more challenges. So it's the right type of data, because it is dangerous than all that data that's out there at the moment.
I think that's still part of that evolution of service desk, isn't it?
Yeah.
If we're looking about what's going to look like in 2020, we've still got, knowledge management. Not everyone has a handle on it yet, because they haven't understood. You've just talked about like what knowledge does the customer actually need? Well, who's done the analysis around your own organization's customers? What is it exactly they need to know? What kinds of questions are they asking? And then start looking at looking at the jurisdictions of where it belongs, what security needs to be in place. And then it's like, well, how are we going to communicate it? So then you're back to the multi-channel management question. You can have the same piece of knowledge, but people want it in different ways. So,
and I think the key there is, and Damien's actually right, the worst thing you can do is back to Google, because you'll be running off to emergency admittance. That's what you've read online. But that's why knowledge management is so support. If our customer base or end users have faith in our knowledge management system, and know that they're most likely going to find the answers to what they need there, then Google will be a second option. But we also need to encourage our users, this is knowledge-centered support, and saying, if you did have to Google and you found a solution that actually worked, how do we capture that and make that an integral part of our knowledge management system, so that it's then available to everybody after it's being, curated and etc.
But it only takes once or twice for it to be curated, because that's what I love about that, looking at a really good knowledge-centered support style of system, because it only takes once or twice for someone to have tried it, to have validated that it works. So, we've really sped up that process, and I think that's part of what makes service desk far more efficient and accurate now, and therefore building their reputation. Because I still think service desk doesn't have that same level of professional depth and strength in their reputation that someone might give to, say, a design team. And I'd like to see that reputation shifted.
Yeah, I agree, Simone. And I think one of the things that we focus on a lot is building trust. And if you can trust the people, you can trust the data, you can trust the solutions, you can trust the comments that are given, and you start believing the timeframes that you're going to go back in. Once you build trust, you then start building a reputation. And one of the things that's happened in NTT specifically is we now have a lot of trust in the service desk, so we are valued as equal to everyone in the organisation, which is a fantastic achievement for us.
So if we think about maybe that the role of the service desk has changed, and before the user rings the service desk or contacts the service desk, they've checked the knowledge articles, they might have turned it off and on again. What kind of skills do service desk staff need now? Because back in the day when I was working on a service desk, it was very much about your people skills. Do we need more technical people on the service desk now?
I'll jump in now. I think it's a mixture of both, and I think the thing is, when anyone phones a service desk, if you think about a doctor's reception or an A&E reception, you need help. And sometimes pure technical people aren't the most empathetic when they first answer the phone. And I think so it's that mix that they can't just be customer focused, because then the customer will get frustrated that they don't resolve an issue. It's getting the right balance now, which is quite a challenge, and it's quite important. So I still think that customer side is needed, but with the ability, and I think as Simone and me have talked about, with the right knowledge there to be able to actually answer the query that comes in and add value and build that trust. So I think it's a quite a strong balance between technical and customer related. But what's key is they need to be able to have the right tools.
I think too, the communication stuff has never gone away in terms of the people skills. So their questioning skills have to be honed even further. So yes, there is technical knowledge required to do some diagnostics, I guess, in terms of getting to the solution. It's not necessarily always the individual that's going to solve it for you, but just the fact that they can move the customer smoothly through that process of getting to the solution, even if they're not the individual that does it. That experience of going on the journey with them, I think, is still greatly important. So their communication skills, their questioning skills, and that even written skills, their ability to know the difference between how do I write support in a chat session versus writing it in an email versus, doing it on a Twitter. So, I think those are skills that are still missing in some support analyst areas. They don't understand the different writing styles required for the different communication channels.
Yeah, I totally agree. And between home communication and professional communication as well.
I think it all goes back to a principle we've been banging on about for a long time. I mean, essentially, it's about designing a service desk to meet the needs of a particular organisation. So it's not a case, as we all know, that one size fits all. So I always say, when you're talking to people in a consulting environment, if you think about your service desk and you think about what you want them to do, then essentially you'll be able to design it accordingly. If you need technical skills and maybe a skilled desk, then your investment is going to be slightly different than if you want a service desk with good interpersonal skills, but not necessarily doing those first point of contact. So I think everybody's spot on in terms of there are some truisms about what skills a service desk needs. They absolutely need the right communication skills, the right writing skills, the right sort of total interpersonal skills. But the additional technical skills they might need will be dependent on the particular organisation.
I think they need to know how to use their own tools. We sometimes, give them the technical knowledge on how to fix the Unix server or this, that, or the other, but we don't actually teach them how to use their own applications, how to use their phone system the right way, how to use, all the fields within their core logging system are understood. So sometimes we forget that they need to know their own technology more than what they do at the moment, sometimes, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one topic I want to touch on, because it's kind of mandatory now that you mentioned DevOps at least once in every hangout. So what do the changes in IT at the moment mean for the service desk? What does DevOps mean for the service desk? What does agile thinking mean for the service desk? How should service desk be anticipating changes here?
It would be nice to see that Dev recognise that service desk is ops, if that makes sense. Service desk still seems to be on this little outer, you know, there's DevOps and then service desk, and it's like, well, hang on, service desk is part of the operations. So if we talk about DevOps actually working together, then service desk needs to be a part of those design projects that are putting those systems in place.
Yeah, I also think if we start using other medium for support, so self-help or inbuilt help for tools, then we need to design for that. So the ops needs to become part of the dev of the design, and it's not just chucked over the wall and they'll find out. So it is an integral part. I think the rapid cycles of an agile or a lean means that service desk people need to focus on that as well, on improvements rather than on fixing. There's a saying like, we won't actually restore incidents anymore, we'll just put a new version on top of it. That might be a bit too extreme, but it does require a slightly different focus in your support, where you kind of are looking for improvements rather than for restoration.
Yeah, I think going back to what we talked in the last question about skills that are needed, I think for DevOps to work, and I agree with what Simone's saying, and bringing service desk into operations, but it's also an extra skill that's needed, and it's about building relationships. And I think once the relationship between a service desk, operations and development can be built, so each party sees the benefit of the other party and what they're doing to help them on a daily basis, rather than there to throw a bad solution over the wall that we have to take the calls for, then we can't get third line support to resolve things. When the benefits are actually, if we can fix things in the service desk, that means you guys in the development team can get more time to play with your new programming language that be out there, and we actually help each other. And it's that's another skill that we're seeing in the service desk, that as well as to be customer focused and technical, they actually need to build internal relationships as well. And I think when you can start getting that culture in place, I actually think it will start becoming a natural evolution without having to be a forced implementation.
And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges, as Damien said, it was a culture change. And for many organisations, not maybe the ones on this call, but for a lot of organisations, the service desk is seen as, you know, out over there and not really empowered. The call takers, pick and flick. And if we're going to bring the service desk into a DevOps environment where there's collaboration and trust, respect, empowerment, that's going to be a major culture change for a lot of service desks. I'm not saying it can't happen, and I'm not saying I'm saying it should happen. That the service desk should be an integral part of your DevOps environment. That's a major culture shift, and could send a lot of service desk analysts running scared. You know.
I think that's where knowledge management flows really help with that trust and collaboration as well. Because if you've got good knowledge management, you know, knowledge is being pushed, you know, that whole shift left from design and dev teams into operations and the service desk, but it flows back the other way as well. So there's lots of things that service desk discovers and adds to the knowledge base of other ways of doing things that the dev teams didn't see. So I think that, you know, that subtlety, it can be done by stealth, if you like, that building that culture can actually happen through knowledge sharing and the channels they use through knowledge sharing as well.
I've just got one because we're coming up to our last 5 minutes. I've just got one question which I'm keen to get everybody's views on. Now, the company that I used to work at a long time ago when I was on the service desk used to make everybody work on the service desk. So if you were coming into the IT organisation, if you were a developer, if you were a operations person or a network person, you would spend some time on the service desk working with the service desk. Is that a good approach, do we think?
I think it absolutely is. I worked for an amazing organisation in the UK, and the leadership team there actually made a formal commitment that they would spend at least 1 to year on the service desk. Now, they didn't do anything silly like take calls because they were completely incapable, but they listened, and they really got involved, and they understood the challenges, and that really made for a renewed investment year on year. But I think it's also important that we get the service desk people into the business. Now, that can be more challenging because I've worked with police force ambulance services where that's a really exciting thing to do, but not always possible. That sort of interaction between business and IT, and I don't like the distinction, but I think that sort of interaction and collaboration and understanding both sides of the fence is really important.
I think you have to look at it as that, not just in their introduction when they first come into the organisation. I mean, let's face it, Service Desk is a hub, so it sees calls from all types of things, all types of parts of the organisation. So it's great to get a cross-section view of how then what you might be doing as a system analyst or something can sort of fit into that. So it's great to do in the intro, that's great, but not as just a tick flick in their mindset. You have to, this is that opportunity to build perception. So say, okay, once every 3 months, you're going to do 2 days, whether it's in a row or during a month, split apart in the service desk, because let's face it, calls do change. New stuff goes out there. So build into that strategy where they do it at least once or twice every 3 months so that they get that finger on the pulse. And I think we have to sell it to them in that way so they get the buy-in to say, hey, sitting on the service desk is about being in the pulse, and that they have a better view of it then. And they're gaining knowledge, and you're building the team collaboration between service desk and some other part of IT and the organisation.
Absolutely
particularly
agree.
in DevOps and agile teams.
It's really important that it's that, again, it's a culture change, isn't it? I've worked in organisations that have done that have rotated people onto the service desk, and it's been, oh my God, it's my day on the service desk tomorrow. You know, they have to see the benefit that they could be sitting at the service desk and going, you know what, I could have given you the solution to that. I could have put that in the knowledge base for you. I could have saved myself some time and, you know, not been distracted with the project I was working on by trying to fix something. So it's that cultural organisational change as well, to bring that right attitude that there's benefit for both parties in doing that. But absolutely done.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that's been said. I think the main focus from me would be around there needs to be a reason, a benefit, an outcome from it, rather than just going there, sitting there, listening to some calls, talking about systems, chatting about your working day, what challenges they have. But there needs to be what's going to come out of that are the people that sit on the circuit. Because, you know, in reality, large organisations, just not everyone's going to be able to do it. You know, location geographically dispersed, but it's when people do come in, what are they going to do? Are they then going to be a service desk champion of the business, and they're going to go and talk back to their team and actually cascade the message out, almost like pyramid selling the service desk?
That's one. I think early life support is another great time to do that, because it is about that honing the knowledge base, transferring a new system or new service into operations, where it really helps to have people from different parts, in this case of the project, involved in the service desk. It's not just walking a mile in their shoes, but it's actually adding value to the service desk process.
That's brilliant. Thank you, everyone. We've come to the end of our time today. It's been a really interesting topic, and I think it's good to think about how the service desk does need to adapt and evolve, because IT is changing, customer expectations are changing. So as service managers, we always have to be anticipating that and making sure we're still meeting customer needs. If you've enjoyed this episode, it's worth checking out the YouTube channel for our previous episode as well, where we spoke to Damien, and also we had David on from the Service Desk Institute talking about how you can use the tools from the Service Desk Institute to actually develop your service desk and recognise the progress that you're making. So thank you very much to all of our panel today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and enjoy the rest of your days wherever you are. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.